Channel 1+1 is on air as part of the United News Marathon. Now, the most important updates in the TSN News Bulletin. The price of natural gas for the population will not increase this winter. This was announced by Volodymyr Zelensky after a conversation with Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko. Thus, at least until May 2026, Ukrainians will continue to pay 7 hryvnias and 96 kopecks per cubic meter of gas for their homes. This price has been in effect since May 2022, when the government introduced a moratorium on raising tariffs. Prime Minister Sviridenko also announced that a decision has already been made to prohibit disconnecting consumers in frontline communities from energy supply due to debts. Additionally, the government has allocated another 1.5 billion hryvnia specifically to frontline regions to protect energy facilities from Russian attacks. Shostka in the Sumy region now has gas again. For several days, the city lived in blackout conditions, without electricity, without gas, and without light due to damage to the gas distribution station, the water supply system, and energy facilities. The Russians shelled the community's critical infrastructure for several days, and on Saturday they also struck the railway station. At that time, 1 person was killed and 8 others were injured. As a result of the terrorist attacks, in some places there was no electricity for almost a week. As a result, the community set up 125 points of invincibility. During this time, almost 2,500 residents turned to the rescue as mobile stations. Those who needed it were provided with psychological assistance. For the residents, including many children, hot meals were organized at the State Emergency Services field kitchens. For those who couldn't get to the distribution points on their own, food was delivered by volunteers and neighbors. Russian air defense strikes its own. In the Belgorod region, a Russian air defense missile fell on a residential building, and footage of the strike appeared online. The video shows the missile striking the upper floors of the building at an angle. As a result, windows were shattered in 15 apartments and about 20 parked cars were damaged. Officially, there are no reported casualties. Local authorities claim that the incident allegedly occurred due to the fall of drone debris. Last night, drone flights continued in the region. A missile attack alert was also announced. Currently, at least 2 Russian airports are not operating due to the presence of drones. 3 people were injured in the evening when Russians shelled Kherson. And in Velika Oleksandrivka, a man was blown up by a mine the day before. He suffered a traumatic amputation of his foot. The enemy continuously attacked the regional center with drones. A local resident was killed at a public transport stop. 3 more people were injured due to power lines damaged by the shelling. The Dnipro district of Kherson was left without power. Trolley buses were not running. A rescuer was wounded and a fire station was damaged in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The Nikopol district endured nearly 24 attacks. An employee of the State Emergency Service was injured and hospitalized. A private house and an apartment building were also damaged. There were also explosions in the Sinelnikov district. The enemy attacked with drones, a fire broke out, and apparently an infrastructure facility was hit. And there were explosions at night as well. They were also heard in Kryvyi Rih, which was terrorized by Shaheds. The consequences are being clarified. The enemy does not stop striking Chernihiv region. The day before, drones hit railway infrastructure in the Nizhyn district near Priluki. The invaders struck an energy facility, and in Novorod-Siversky they hit an agricultural enterprise, in particular setting fire to a grain elevator where grain was stored. They also hit a residential building. Today, in Lviv region, a final farewell will be held for 15-year-old Nastya and her mother. They were killed by the Russians on Sunday during a massive attack when a direct hit struck their house. An elderly couple died with them. The pensioners were buried the day before. TSN correspondent Marichka Kuzik will tell you more.
She's our dear sister. She's our family. They are our dearest loved ones. And no one ever thought that such a close-knit...
She was our sister. There were 3 sisters and...
In the church in the village of Lapevka, people are saying goodbye to the couple who died during the Russian shelling. 68-year-old Mrs. Luba usually lived in another house nearby, her sisters say. But every time there was an air raid alert, she would come to the home where her husband, son, and daughter-in-law lived with their 15-year-old daughter.
Both houses were destroyed by missiles. We talked and talked, went to bed, and never woke up. And that terrible missile took our sister from us. Mom was hiding from the missile strikes, from those sirens. She was afraid to be alone. She would go to her son and to her husband there.
The couple's 46-year-old son, Vitaly, is the only one who survived the strike. He was found under the rubble. The man is unconscious in intensive care.
He is in very serious condition. This morning, the daughter and son-in-law went to see him, and he is in very critical condition.
These are shots taken right after Sunday's shelling. All that's left of the house is the foundation and a pile of bricks. Residents of Lviv say the deceased pensioners were kind and hardworking, and they were respected.
Very good people, quiet, polite, well-mannered. She helped people. People would come to her. She was a hairdresser. People would come to her. She welcomed everyone. Almost all the pensioners used to go to her.
We have been close for a long time. We know each other. I always got my hair cut by her. Very pleasant and good people.
Let me remind you, the Russians launched a massive attack on Lviv region on the night before Sunday. They launched almost 100 drones and missiles. There were strikes on the industrial park, and a school and kindergarten were destroyed. Marichka Kuzek, Andriy Popovich, Lviv, TSN, 1+1, United News Marathon.
The 141st Separate Mechanized Brigade showed footage of clearing the villages of Sosnivka, Koroshino, Vasilivka, and Sikneve. This is in the Dnipropetrovsk region. This success was achieved through cooperation with the 225th Separate Assault Regiment. During the assault, our defenders eliminated 50 Russian occupiers and captured 8 more. Analysts from Deep State report that the Russians are trying to retake the lost positions, but the defense forces are doing everything to prevent this. At the same time, the occupiers have captured Malivka in the Dnipropetrovsk region and have advanced near several other settlements in Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk regions. The majority of Russian assaults took place in the Pokrovsk, Novopavlivka and Turetska sectors. In total, there were 174 clashes along the entire front line over the past day. These are the latest figures from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Meanwhile, fighters from the 3rd Assault Corps are showing footage of an aerial hunt for enemy drones. This time, our vigilant defenders successfully took down a variety of enemy aerial threats, including Gerbera, Zala and Lancet drones, along with a significant number of 16 Molnias. In the northern border area, the strike FPV crews of the 71st Jäger Brigade carry out dozens of launches a day, searching for Russians among the dense forests as small groups try to approach the forward positions of our defenders. And the task of our pilots is to prevent the situation from escalating into close combat. The film crew of TSN correspondent Alexander Motorny has just returned from the position of the Jäger drone operators in the Sumy region. A QR code will appear on your screens during the report, and it is for fundraising for a pickup truck specifically for the strike drone company of the 71st Jäger Brigade. Our soldiers really need it.
One moment.
Just a few seconds to disembark in the darkness. Another minute to unload supplies, water, drones with ammunition, and to rotate the crews.
I'm just coming. I'm hurrying very quickly right now.
Not a single extra second on the surface, because enemy drones in the border area of Sumy region are now constantly and relentlessly watching over Ukrainian positions day and night.
This is most likely ammonia. And our air defense worked quite effectively.
How often does this happen here?
Pretty often.
At the same time, Russian guided aerial bombs indiscriminately strike the rear and explode right on the front line.
We've often had cases where an infantry position was destroyed by a KAB. And it's not just one cab, sometimes 4 cabs could hit a single squad position in a day where only 3 or 4 soldiers are stationed.
According to Dimas, an FPV drone pilot from Ukraine's 71st Jäger Brigade, the Muscovite infantry has recently lost much of its assault enthusiasm.
At the moment we've pushed them out, so their intensity has dropped a bit. It's not just their intensity, I think their morale has dropped too, when it comes to coming here. Because when we moved in, they were running around here all cocky, and it really seemed like they thought they could walk around with impunity. But we drove some of them out. It truly looked like they had a well-established rotation, bringing in some new, fresh and energetic guys. They actively ran around quite a bit too, and now, at this very moment, they genuinely don't feel like diving in anymore.
But as the pilots of the Jäger Brigade admit, there's still no shortage of Kremlin infantry.
There's no sense that the Russians are finished yet. I think we still need to keep hitting them, again and again, before we get that feeling. But I'll say this, we are taking them out in significant numbers.
Thanks to the efforts of our soldiers, about 2 regiments of Russian assault troops have ceased to be any kind of threat since the 71st entered the Sumy direction. But that hasn't made the workload any lighter for Ukrainian pilots.
The dam is the target.
All right, go ahead. Yes.
Sit down.
It's truly thundering, brother. Assault groups, some groups are positioned on their designated positions, on theirs enemy shelters.
All of this is their job, or rather their potential targets, says Solovey. He started the war in 22 as an operator of an American anti-tank missile system. For a year and a half now, he has changed his profession.
I'm the second number, the spotter. I assemble the drones, equip them, arm them, and prepare them for takeoff.
Every daylight day they make from 12.5 to 250 launches. And what's the task?
The task was to detect the enemy with reconnaissance. 2 enemies in the grove. We took off, we'll try to destroy them.
It's exactly these small groups of Russians that try to advance every day.
They gather together, and then in small determined groups, they try to reach our established positions. Every single day, there is constant movement, and every day, new individuals arrive and come forth. They keep coming and coming.
For cover and camouflage in the Sumy region, the occupiers use the dense foliage of trees and thick bushes in the deep local ravines. Ukrainian pilots admit that it's very difficult to spot enemy infantry in such conditions.
See this tree? The trunk is green, so green, and the branches too.
And they're climbing, right?
The cannon is thrown there as you wish.
Dimas, everything is there, everything is there. There is video, there is telemetry. We see.
Sit down.
Heavy armored vehicles, says Solovey, a former Javelin operator and now a navigator for the strike drone crew of the 71st Jäger Brigade, are not being used by the enemy in Sumy region at all right now. Russian artillery operates mostly from across the border, and it's up to Ukrainian gunners to silence it. But it's drones, Solovey insists, that are now the #1 weapon on the front lines, especially in the dense forests of Ukraine's northern border region.
We caught up. They are much more effective and possess a much greater capacity for applying them in various situations. Yes. And what about the equipment? What about the manpower? What about the enemy shelters plus range? You can fly much further, destroy much more.
It can actually work quite well.
In general?
In general.
From the border in Sumy Oblast, Alexander Motorny, Oleksiy Osadchuk and Serhiy Shportilo, TSN 1+1, the United News Marathon.
Donald Trump did not wish Putin a happy birthday. The day before the Russian dictator celebrated his 73rd birthday, propaganda outlets meticulously kept a list of those who congratulated their boss. In addition to the leaders of post-Soviet countries, Putin was honored by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, India's Modi, Turkish President Erdogan, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. However, a conversation with the President of the United States was not scheduled, Putin's aide Ushakov reported. All of this is happening against the backdrop of a noticeable cooling in their relations. Trump is threatening to supply Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles. Putin responded that this would destroy relations with America. Donald Trump himself, the day before, hosted Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House and brought up the topic of Russia himself, once again stating that he is very disappointed in Putin.
I get along very well with Putin, and I thought that was the case. I am very disappointed in him because I thought everything would be easy to resolve. But it turned out that perhaps this is more complicated than the Middle East.
Instead of serving, they were making shawarma. Based on materials from the State Bureau of Investigation, a military official will be tried for using soldiers in his own business. Investigators have completed the investigation regarding the deputy head of a unit in one of the military divisions in Donetsk region, who for 2 years forced his subordinates to build and work for the benefit of his family, particularly in the Pokrovsk district. On the officer's orders, 2 soldiers set up a street food kiosk. And while they were making shawarma, the state continued to pay them their full monthly salaries, including combat pay. This caused losses to the state budget of over 4 million. The officer faces up to 10 years behind bars. According to the State Bureau of Investigation, indictments against the 2 soldiers who followed their commander's illegal orders have been sent to court. In the Carpathians, winter is not retreating. On the contrary, it is becoming even harsher. The highlands are completely snowed in. In some places, the snow drifts are over half a meter high. The frost has persisted for several days now. Yesterday, a temperature of -3 was recorded on Mount Pip Ivan Chernohorsky. Rescuers are urging tourists to refrain from hiking in the mountains as visibility is very poor. There are currently no forecasts predicting better weather in the coming days. This concludes the TSN broadcast. The next team from 1+1 is preparing their segment for 7:30, and then, as part of the joint marathon, the project The Game Continues will cover football during wartime. And in the last round of the Ukrainian Premier League, there was an incredible goal scored right from the center of the field, as well as a sensational crushing defeat for Shakhtar. So there's definitely something worth watching.